Thank you for joining us today, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. We're waiting. There are a few more people that are joining, so we're just going to wait another moment. Thank you for being patient. Again, hello, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you're safe from the hurricane's path and this pandemic. My name is Mari Sarmiento, and I'm your channel manager with NextTrust Bill Flash. This webinar was produced today by Kathy Scott, who is our NextTrust marketing manager, and will be fielding all of your questions in the background today. There will be handouts available during this presentation and can be found in the handout section of the dashboard to your right. If at any time during this presentation you have a question or would like to submit anything, you can do that by clicking on the questions or chat bar on the dashboard, and they will be addressed by Kathy and Deanna at the Q&A portion at the end of this presentation. We are excited to have Deanna Holmes presenting for us today. Deanna has been working in the medical practice billing industry since 1992. First as an owner of a clearinghouse, later launching Advanced Practice Billing in 2007, and in 1997, she wrote Practical Guide to Medical Billing. Now, this is published by the U.S. Department of Commerce. Ms. Holmes does not solicit business and only takes on new clients through direct client or vendor referrals. We currently have 15 billers, soon to be 16, who all work on a percentage of collections. So her team is motivated to collect. Who often moves billers around depending on specific niche, expertise, or for multiple accounts for clients who don't require full-time billers. It is a constant juggling act to do these things the way that she does, but she has clients now for over 20 years. And it takes a little time to get the culture of how working for providers and staff would work out, but once it does, things go well all the way through the line. Now, first, we'd like to start off our presentation today with a poll. How are you sending your patients statements? So you have the choice of choosing from in-house, through a billing service, or through a statement or mailing company. Which is the one that best explains how you are sending your patient statements out? So if you could just select the one that best describes what you do in your office, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Looks like we've got a lot of people chiming in, which is great. And it looks like a lot are through a statement or mailing company. We've got about 63% at this point. 16% are through a billing service, and about 21% are in-house. So if you haven't chosen which one on this poll best describes your office, if you could just do that. We're going to give just a few more seconds on this before we close it and begin our presentation. Looks like those numbers are still holding pretty strong, with 64% through a statement or mailing company and about 20% are in-house. So we'll go ahead and close that poll. And now we'll go ahead and turn the time over to Deanna Holmes for your presentation today. Thank you.
Hello, can everyone hear me okay? I hope so. Okay, the thing that I really want to get across to everybody in the overview is, to keep patients coming back and with the knowledge that they have to pay their bill. That is really the goal of the whole thing. We try to really work with each practice, and they're all different, just to figure out what their payment culture is. Some doctors have a patient who will complain, I really can't afford to pay this, or your billing service isn't doing this right. They're not billing this right because they don't want to pay their bill. I'm sure everyone on this call has heard that. So it's really making sure physicians know how to push back to patients, how to get them to talk to the right people, and to make them realize they have to pay their bill. It's not free. We have a billing rule of 3 in our company, which is, the first statement goes out and we track first, second, and third statements. First statement goes out, a second one gets a different color and a second notice. And because most people, oh gee, I forgot to pay that, so they'll pay on the second notice. And sometimes, we have one client we've had for 22 years, and they have gone from, an average 150 statements a month. They're now down to 82 first statements because people know, front desk collects when they come in. They don't wait. People say, well, I don't have a statement. I didn't get a statement. They print them one, collect the money right then. It's creating that culture. It's also, know your market. Your market is where you are, where you're billing. We bill in multiple different market types, metro, urban, and extreme rural. And they're all very different, the way patients pay. And extreme rural is the hardest place to get patients to pay because everybody knows everybody in a small town, and you have to treat people very differently. It can't be your way or the highway. You have to be nice to people. You have to accommodate their, unique situations. So it just depends on that situation. Metro tends to be everybody has a job, everyone has a high deductible, so everybody's going to have to pay a bill. So it's just different. And then, we also look at how old the statement is. And, you can weigh, when do I send someone to collections? When someone is over 90 days past due, 6 months past due, or they've had how many bills. I look at it like how many bills, because I'm a billing service and I pay for that statement. So I want that statement to have more bang for the buck. So that's why, you have to really determine with the client or with your employer, what is okay? How many times do you send out a $15 statement that the patient has come in 3 times and they haven't collected? I mean, that's just crazy to keep sending out those statements every month. And of course, the other thing is empowering your staff. You have to make sure your staff knows how to collect at the front. I don't sit at a front desk. I have gone and trained our front desk people at different practices that are local. But since I'm not doing that job, I try to be mindful of what they have to do and empower them. And, we'll talk in a little bit about incentives, a way to incentivize the front desk people to collect money, because it's really all about getting people to pay. One of the things, I've built a successful and thriving business by providing products and services to my customers without being paid. Does anybody know who said that? I think it's probably nobody. You couldn't build a business that way. So I think the thing that is important for everyone to realize is you have to make sure, if you have a bad pay culture, you have to really change that. You have to really work with from the physician all the way down to the front desk people, MAs, everyone has to have the same goals, which is take good care of patients, and the patients have to pay their bills. They have to pay for this. It's not a free clinic. I don't think anyone's billing for a free clinic because it's free. So it's really, how do you get to that stage? And for us, it's a process because we're external. And, whenever something goes wrong financially, all the practice personnel say, what's the billing service? Anyone on this call that's a billing service probably is raising their hand saying, yep, I know what you're saying. It's always our fault. But the truth is, the only way to get around that is to help have a supportive culture with the practice so that they understand, we value their role there completely. But how do you get them to work with you and not against you? And that's really a very tricky but very possible thing to do. We try to do that with every practice, and there are some that it doesn't work. But I think when patients feel like the practice is caring for them, when they walk in, someone looks them in the eye and says, welcome, something, hello, good morning. And you walk into some places and the person never even looks at you. They shove a sign-in sheet out to you, don't even look up. You sign it, shove it back to them, and they never even look at you. So trying to get that changed, it's harder to walk away from someone who owes money if you do that. And also, we work with practices that have multiple front desk people, and there are some people can collect better than others, and we ask the practice have that person train the other front desk people how to ask for money, because it's it's required, it's a required job, task for a front desk person, in my opinion. But many people think they're just receptionists. You know, they don't have to do that. So it's just learning to get everybody to work together. And in most of our practices, the problems have been the doctors themselves. Excuse me. Many of them will say a patient will come in and whine about not being able to pay the bill, or it's a billing problem. And I have one doctor, I've worked for him since 2009. And I finally said, will you please just say, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about the billing. You have to call the billing service. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about billing. You have to call the billing service or the billing department or talk to a billing person. Well, she doesn't like me. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about billing. You know, and it's taken me, you know, since 2009 to get him to stop giving, you know, he would send me a message saying, you know, this patient, just write this off. This patient's not going to go away. And I go, you know what? No, we've already sent him 7 bills. We've talked to him on the phone 6 times. He just doesn't want to pay. He owes it. He selected his insurance policy. We did not. And yeah, you can see this goes right in here with the undisciplined culture. And, you know, you got to get doctors to quit doing that, however you can do it. I try to give them things to say, you know, put the words in their mouth, and they're more likely to say it. Like, you know, you can practice this while you're shaving in the morning in the mirror. You know, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to do with billing. He laughed at me, but he now does it. And he has stopped writing off delinquent bills. There are the occasional exceptions, and this is the guy that's in a rural community. So he's different. We have other clients who will say, if you want to write it off, it's up to you. They leave it up to us, the biller, if we're going to write something off. They don't want to have any responsibility for that because they figure it's our money too. We make a percentage of the take. So we're not going to write something off because it's our money too. And they are correct. I mean, it has to be a really serious situation, a serious error on somebody's part in the practice or something, you know, to take care of something like that. And then we have clients that have, can you go back? Sorry about that. We have clients that inconsistent or no billing, when we took them on, they had never sent a statement out. And so we're like, what? You know, they had 1,500 statements. And people were amazed. They paid their bill once they got one. And that's the one thing that's really critical, is to have a really strong process or policy about statements. I always, when I talk to a client initially, I ask them that question, how do you currently do statements? And then when they tell me, you know, a lot of them don't even know, I say, well, this is how we do them. We create their process and policy because we're the ones that have to manage it. And when you take that initiative and do that, they follow along because they don't really know how to do it. I mean, it's really, everyone's different. Every practice is different. And of course, the markets are different. But you have to have a process or a policy in order to make the money move. And to not spend a lot of money that you shouldn't have to spend on statements. Okay, that's okay. Sorry about that, Kathy. Kathy's managing our slides for us today. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, the big thing for us is making sure clients use eligibility processes and they have good processes up front. And not just doing eligibility, but actually reading what they say. High deductible policies, you know, really have to be handled differently now, because since the whole insurance industry changed with Obamacare, everyone's deductibles went sky high. Everybody, every place. So it's not appropriate to just front all the work for, you know, it depends on how many patients a day you see, but if you saw 50 a day in a practice and 25 of them were commercial with high deductibles, then the doctor would have to be, you know, he'd have to have a lot of cash on hand at the beginning of the, you know, the year in order to carry all those patients' deductibles until they, you know, insurance process and they pay the bills. So we finally said, look, you're not making any money and we're not making any money. You guys need to collect this up front. And, you know, make sure you get the right information. If you're not going to get a cash, make them pay cash to cover their deductible, or put a credit card on file that you can run. Then you need a Social Security number so you can send them to collections. Because if you don't get the social, you can't send them to the credit bureaus. And then sending someone to collections is a waste of money if you don't have a social security number. And I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that. And it may be different in other states with regards to what the collection laws are, but the bureaus are the bureaus and they're nationwide. So, you know, if you go to borrow money and someone has sent you to collections, you have to pay that off, or a bank will not lend you money without paying off the collection account. So that's the only way some people will pay. But if you don't have a social security number, you can't send them. So that part is really important in my opinion. Staff roles, you know, also play a huge part in collecting money. You have to ask them, you know, to train them how to ask for money. You have to make sure they're doing their, you know, they verify their daily collections. You know, what do they collect? What type of money do they balance at the end of the day? You know, and same thing with doctors and staff. If billing service is off-site, then the front desk should not be answering billing questions. They should be sending those to the billers. Because a lot of times they get confused and say, well, it's probably your deductible, when it isn't. It could be something else. But that's another issue with statements. The quality of statements is making sure you have good notes why the patient owes. This has been applied to your coinsurance or your deductible, or this is your copay that was not paid at the time of service. You have to tell people, or we're billing you 100% because your insurance termed. Or, you know, because there's a lot of the plans now that are Obamacare plans that if you don't pay your premium, like you may be eligible on August 1, but if you don't pay your August premium, then they take the money back from the doctors if they paid them, if you didn't pay your premium. So those are far and few between, but they are out there and they do create problems. So it's always good to have a credit card on file if you can get it. And I think, you know, some of the practice culture issues that we see in the beginning is front desk people see the doctor has a really nice car, his wife dresses really nice, has lots of jewelry. So they don't really care about the doctor's money. They think the doctor's rich. And, you know, you have to make sure those kinds of things aren't the perception of your front desk if you're in a practice, because it's important for them to know you have bills to pay. It's very expensive to be a doctor and to run a practice. And now after COVID-19, all of the practices cost just skyrocketed with, they all have to have extra PPE. They have to have all kinds of supplies they didn't used to have. A couple of my clients have just outrageous increases in costs. So they got to get this money in the door. And I think, you know, you can really let people know that, you know, not just staff, but patients, you know, who are getting very impatient to come in. Because even if patients aren't in the practice because they're doing telehealth, the staff is still completely gowned and gloved and masked up all the time. So it's a huge expense. And people really should understand that at the ground level. Okay, we can, yeah, here's one of the things that we did. Oh, wow, our presentation went away. Where are we? Where are we? I can't control it. Hey, Kathy, hello? What has happened? Kathy. I apologize. I'm not sure what's happening. Hello?
Are you still on?
I'm here, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
There's no screen.
Oh, there should be. Okay, hold on.
I have a big blank white screen. That's all I have.
Okay, how's that? Sorry, here we go.
Yeah, that's been a big pause.
I'm so sorry, my internet, I'm so sorry this is Kathy. I apologize, my internet just went out. I am so sorry, everyone. Thank you for working with me.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay.
I think we're at,
no, we were at the slide you were on.
okay, we're right here?
No, one back.
Okay, my apologies.
No, we already
one back
did
the
that
other
one.
way.
Yeah.
There we go,
Yeah,
sorry. There we go.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have done with, people with EHR systems, and it depends on the one that you use, but they all pretty much will accommodate an email address. And, to do e-billing, you have to have an email address. And there's a lot of practices who don't care about that because we pay for the statements. But what we say to them is, it reduces your MA time in the back. If you get email addresses, you can send them their, through the portal, you can send them their lab results and test results and things like that. So your people don't have to come in. They can just actually look at their own records. Hey, your labs look normal, blah, blah, blah. So the only ones you have to call are the ones that have a problem. And it really reduces a lot of staff time to do that. So, and then it also gives us the email address. And we've tried different incentive programs for patients to get them to give their email address, because some don't like to do that. We'll say, look, for everyone who gives us your email address, we're drawing names out of the hat once a month, and we're giving a gift card, $25 Visa card or something, or a local restaurant to that community. And those really help a lot. People, you offer someone an incentive like that, and they give their email address like they're going out of business. We've also internally, we've created contests with front desk staff to get them to collect more money, that whoever collects the most money, and it all shows up in the EHR, who did what, all their footprints are on there. Then whoever collects the most over the phone or at the front desk, we pay a monthly gift card to. And it's amazing how just a $25 gift card helps those people do that kind of thing. I mean, we see the revenue go way up. It's incredible. And we have one client who we've done this with, and they have like 20 front desk people. It's a big group. And we went from sending 4,400 statements a month, and we're now down to 2,600 a month. That's how many, because they're collecting now, and we're not sending multiples all the time. It's amazing the difference that makes. And I don't know if anybody needs any ideas about that, you can ask at the end, but it's really a good way to go, to get people to actually work with you to collect the money. Okay, next. Yeah, in large markets like metro and urban markets, we like to really push people to use things like stored pay, which it's a feature in BillFlash, and I don't know if other mail services offer it, but it allows the staff to set the patient's credit card up because they've looked at their eligibility and say, wow, this guy has a $5,000 deductible and he's only met, $350 of it. So, we know he's going to owe the bill. We just don't know how much it's going to be. In some cases, if you know how much it's going to be, you can just collect it. But if you don't have your fee schedule set up accordingly, based on that payer, you can't really do that. So we just have them use stored pay. And then once we bill them through BillFlash, it hits their credit card. And there are different options. It can warn them first and say, is it okay to run your credit card? And they always say yes. But I would say 99% of the time they say yes. And it also, the process of doing that really teaches the staff
to be realistic. I mean, they have to say, look, this is what your deductible is, so you know you haven't met it, so here we go. And by doing that, the staff, it helps them feel more and more comfortable collecting money, because they're realizing how ridiculous it was when they didn't do this. And anyone who's unwilling to provide a credit or debit card have to pay cash. I mean, they just have to, especially if you don't have a Social Security number. And in these times where people are getting their identity stolen, a lot of people aren't willing to give their SSN, and which I don't blame them. So in that case, that's fine. You can pay. You can pay cash. And it's really, I mean, the best practice is educating practice staff how to collect money and how to talk about it with patients without, if you go to a plastic surgeon, they're all, half or all cosmetic. So they know how to sell and they know how to collect cash. That's what they do. But in like a family practice, a surgeon's office, they don't really know how to do that. They need to be taught. And a lot of times we'll do telephone training and teach people how to, how would you like to take care of that today? Check, cash, or credit card, and let the patient decide. Don't say, I'm sorry, but I got to collect this or I'm going to be in trouble. That doesn't really sound good. So we try to give them better things to say that are positive. And then notice, hey, this woman's got a Louis Vuitton bag and her nails are freshly done, but she says she doesn't have any money to pay. I'm sorry, she probably does. So that's the kind of thing we try to teach front desk people. And I do it over the phone because most of my clients are remote from me. I'm in urban Phoenix and they're elsewhere. The other thing, like we send e-bills, and it's really important in our world, our process, which I have no problem sharing with you. We send the first statement as a black statement, and it always says, this is due to your insurance, deductible, co-insurance, whatever. That note is always there, why they owe, or your insurance has turned, or your insurance has requested information from you and you have not sent it to them, so you owe. And then, they call you. Then the second time, we'll send them a blue statement or green statement. It's up to the biller. And it'll say, this is your second notice. And third time, they get a red statement, and in bold, it says collection warning on the statement. And we send them, when we can, we send them electronically. And in some markets, we are 95% e-bill, and in others, we're 95% mail. It just depends on how many email addresses, how many people want an e-bill. We try to send it both ways the first time, and then some people will say, my preference is I don't want you to send me this, in the mail. I want it by email, and then others say the opposite. So we accommodate the patient, but the main thing is getting a tight process. And then once we put someone under collection warning, we go into the medical management system and put that statement on hold and change the status of that balance or that invoice to collection, that's our collection warning status. And it's amazing, since February with one client, when we implemented this in full steam ahead in February, we've paid off, well, we haven't, the patients have paid off 1,085 collection warning accounts. And, and it's totaling over $100,000. It's amazing how much, just they realize, okay, we have to pay this. So that really helped a lot. And I think if you have a good, solid thing like that, it helps. So anyway, yeah, I think, stored pay is one of the better features. Well, e-bill and stored pay are our favorite things in Bill Flash, but I think we could be almost ready for questions.
Yes, and thank you so much. I have to apologize. I was so nervous about this webinar because I have so much respect for Deanna. I think she's amazing. So clearly, everything I feared would happen, something happened. I want to thank everyone for staying on because I do think she's amazing. And there are many other things that she has to offer. Some of the things that she has talked to me about, I want to bring up. And so please make sure you put your questions in the box. Can you talk a little bit about some of your customers that limited themselves in taking credit cards? you said some refused to take any credit cards that were less than $25.
Oh yes, I had one practice that the administrator, which happened to be the doctor's wife, she really thought that it was chewing up all of their fees to take a credit card for less than $25. So she would tell us, you know, the billing service, you need to call those patients and tell them to send in a check. Well, you know, this is the day and age of electronics. So, I mean, I was sharing with Kathy, my stepson is 32. He's got a great job. He has a debit account. He doesn't have a checking account. You know, he doesn't have a check. He can't write a check. So he uses PayPal. You know, he uses, you know, whatever method he can use, electronic check, but he doesn't write checks. And so she, you know, and he has to pay money if he does. And so I finally went to the physician and I said, look, we got to take these, you have to take a credit card. You know, there's over $3,000 in amounts due that are under $25. I mean, some of them were $15 copays, and she would not take a credit card. So he finally just lifted that and said, no, we're going to do it. And now, of course, there's no balances under $25. You know, everybody pays their bills. And, you know, we have some clients who say, I don't want to take American Express. The fees are too high. Like, I think it's against your merchant agreement to do that. You know, you got to take whatever form of payment someone's willing to pay, you know. But it just depends on each practice and each market. One of our clients who did not want to do bill pay, we terminated them several years ago due to a horrible practice manager they had. 5 months later, they called and they fired her and wanted us to come back. In the meantime, she had made them sign up for that. I said, well, what do you think of it? They, oh, we love it. We love it. I'm like, oh, good. Because we had never used it before, because we only used it for statements only. So that was kind of interesting how that all worked out. But anyway, now we require all of our clients to do it because it's just easier for us. But I think the main thing is getting the statements in an organized process. I don't know if anybody else does the same type of thing. It'd be interesting to hear. But we really, I have one lady who works for me who's actually retiring right now, but she just got so tired of touching the same statements month after month after month. And so, you know, every month she worked for me, we tightened it up a little bit more. Because she said, if I have to look at this one statement again, I'm gonna kill somebody. And then she would send me 30 of them that she thought should go to collections. And then I'd go look at the accounts, can't do it, no social. You know, you can't really send somebody. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. You know, someone's just going to keep sending them letters and calling and harassing them. And that gives the practice a bad name. Excuse me. So we don't want to do that. But anybody else has any ideas? I think it would be, you know, I think it would be great.
Well, and I want to make sure that you all know, Deanna does not work for us. We happened to be talking on the phone, and she was singing the praises of stored pay because it is a game changer in a lot of the practices she works with because of the high deductibles and because with some of the things that she had mentioned, there are patients that come in and based on the qualifications, she already knows that they're going to have to pay. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, especially if you have a metro area that has a lot of foreigners. Like one of our clients is in downtown Chicago, and they have a lot of people that come there to go to school, all those art schools downtown and med schools. And, you know, they're from all over the world, and they do not have Social Security numbers because they're not American. And so those people, you know, they come to urgent care that we bill for. You know, if you don't have that, you know, the doctor themselves, they said, you know, when I take my kids to urgent care in the suburbs, I have to give them a credit card on file. I go, really? He goes, can we do that? I go, absolutely, you can do it. Let's figure it out. So that's when they just started using stored pay about 6 months ago. And it really makes a difference. And I think right now we have probably close to 300 stored cards, something like that, in one of the practices. in the primary care and way more than that in the urgent care. But it really helps a lot to have that kind of, and of course you have to talk doctors into it or administrators into it. And it depends on where you're billing, whether you can do that or not. Because some people just will not disclose anything. You've got a lot of people that live under the grid or try to. And I mean, it's getting harder and harder, but it really depends on where you are, you know, where you're billing, you know, the community. But I would have no problem giving my credit card to somebody. You know, we manage our electronic stuff online.
And I think you said that, you know, the challenge is developing a pay culture. And you have a question, and I think it goes to what you're saying. Do you have your clients collect at the end of a visit or before? And if so, how do they do that? I know that we offer something called Link Pay, which our customers have a dedicated link to their practice that they can actually send to their patients via smartphone or email. But what do? You suggest they collect up front or at the end of the visit?
Well, it depends on the visit. We have one client that, you know, if you owe a balance when you walk in the door, they collect that at the front. But there are people who are self-pay that will come in and they don't know what they're going to do yet. So what one practice does, they have a super bill they use. So whatever services they provide, they print, they put the gross fee on everything, and then they deduct off 35%. So the front can't know what's going to be due at the back. So the back office people collect it as they leave. They don't go back through the front. So they have the MAs collecting the self-pays and the front desk people collecting co-pays and balances, which I find very interesting. They've worked it out that way. Because in no other practice do we have MAs taking any money, you know?
Now, there's also, I think, an interesting best practice that I think, especially around what's going on with COVID, looking back at people's balances. If someone wants to come in and get a test, always to make sure that they look at their balance and have them pay before they even come in and get seen again. And that doesn't happen a lot.
Well, it doesn't happen with most of our clients, but it happens with one. So, I mean, it's like you have to pay your bill if you want to come in and be tested. And if you're the only testing site around, it does help, you know. But I think, you know, a lot of people too, in some communities, you know, we thought, you know, during COVID-19, we really thought that no patients would pay their bills. We were actually stunned that they do. I don't know if everybody else has that experience as well, but we have one client that, I mean, we couldn't believe it, how many we'd send out bills and people were paying their bills. And the e-bills were critical when COVID happened and all these people left the country to go back to where they came from to weather this out. We sent them e-bills and they still paid their bills from out of the country. It was really interesting. We were not expecting it. I'm glad they did, obviously, but I thought that was interesting. I don't know if anybody else had that kind of experience, but we had rural practices that nobody paid their bill. So, you know, that's what we really expected from everyone, you know.
And you also said that you had just sent out e-bills get paid like within 3 days. So I wanted to see if you could talk about that, but also how you capture email addresses through EHR.
Well, in our case, we just try to encourage people to, you know, to do whatever incentives they can to get the email address. But most EHRs, people who are using them properly, they get all that information because they know they're going to use the portal, because it helps so much on the back end for MAs to not have to call every single patient on their lab, especially in a primary care practice. I mean, we have several primary cares, and it's really a lot of work to have people calling every single patient, your labs are normal, your labs are normal. When they could just send them a portal message, you know, log in and look at your labs. And they can see your labs are normal, so-and-so said they're fine, see you next year, that kind of thing. Only come in if you have a problem. And then, but if you have, you call the ones that you want them to make an appointment and come in, so you can go over their labs, you know, that have a problem. Or if you want to make a medication change, you know, they can tell them that. But for the most part, that's the best way to do it. But we have a couple clients, and we send the e-bills out, and like when we post the insurance and the patient owes, if they owe over $100, we send them a demand statement right then, just to, you know, their first black statement. And a lot of people, I mean, seriously, they pay them, you know, within 24 hours. It's amazing. There's one lady I just sent a couple days ago. I saw somebody insurance termed on TriZetto. So I went into the system and did a zero insurance pay, your insurance termed. And I said, please pay or let us know your new plan. Well, the next morning, that woman's calling. You know, she got the e-bill that night. She called the next morning and gave us her new insurance. So at least we got that figured out quickly. And those kind of things is what I like, that kind of action, you know, where you can just do something now. You don't have to wait till a statement goes out or hope someone, you know, checks their mail. Because I do find that millennials don't check their mailbox much because they're not expecting mail. I know my in-laws will tell my stepson, hey, did you ever check your mail? We sent you a card like 3 weeks ago. we never got it.
Did it have money in it? That's my head. I'd say.
Yeah.
And then lastly, one of the other things, I know I'm keeping you too long. You're probably talking too much, and it's hurting your, probably need to get some water. I want to really kind of touch on how important it is to have as many avenues or gateways for payment. That we've seen that, and I'm sure you've seen this. Each gateway, like online or in office, or plan pay over time or stored pay, each one of those offers a different revenue stream. So it's not always, so often people think that it becomes another way to pay. Very often it becomes another revenue stream. We've seen that where practices will introduce a new type of way to pay, and it increases their revenue. Do you see that?
Yes, we do see it. I mean, mainly when you add credit cards, that seems to be, that was the biggest thing ever to hit practices, that they would just take credit cards. And some of my older clients would take Visa and MasterCard, but they didn't want to take Discover and American Express. And I finally, one of my doctors in Scottsdale, Arizona, I said, look, you have to take American Express. Everyone here uses that. You know, you have to take it. You know, well, yeah, but the fees are high. I get that. Would you rather pay them a little extra in fee but get your bulk of money? I mean, these people owe you $700. Yeah. You know, who cares? You know, so finally they conceded that. And of course, we use our clients use Bill Flash as the merchant. So, you know, they are also, like, we take the non-link paid, all of the insurance credit card payments too, you know, all of that stuff. So, because the rates are better. But it's
well,
something
so tell me a little bit about that as the merchant.
Well, you know, if you're using Bill Flash as your merchant for bill pay, then, you know, instead of, you know, whatever your other merchant account was, you know, you still can run an insurance credit card on Bill Flash. It's just a non-linked payment. We do it that way. And that way the biller, like, we used to have to send those to the practice and have them run it on their credit card machine. Now we don't have to do that. We can log into Bill Flash and we can process the payment directly into the client's bill, you know, checking account. That's how we do it. And it put the biller in control of making sure those things were done. Because our policy is we don't post any money until we are guaranteed the client got the money. So when you have like EFTs, ACHs, you know, all kinds of forms of payment, you got to make sure they got them. And most clients send us a copy of their EFT, you know, list from their bank account so we can make sure that we posted all that money as well, you know, that we got all the EOBs. It's a constant struggle the billing service knows.
You know, as a biller, that gives you a lot of control. That Bill Flash, you can use that as a merchant.
Right. Right. It takes it off the practice that they don't have to do that. You know.
What's the turnaround time to put it in their account? I guess in your account. What's when you process it?
Oh, when you process it, it goes in next day.
That's fantastic.
I mean, that's what we see. Because we see, I mean, we watch our clients that send us their bank account records, you know, they'll dump them into Excel and send them to us. And I go in and I can see all the bill flash payments that went in. I can see everything, Blue Cross, Medicare, you know, whatever it is. But we make sure we have all that stuff posted and that we balance to them, because we have to balance to their bank, you know.
Right.
Because it wouldn't be possible for us to post $100,000 if they only took in 80.
Right.
That would mean,
right.
That would mean we did not balance. But it's always the other way around. They always have more money than we post. But
right.
We're always running. Yeah, running down EOBs is a full-time job. But anyway, any more questions?
Nope, that's it. And I want to thank you so much, and thanks everybody for staying around. I appreciate it so much. We have another webinar coming up. Let me see if I can get through here. Oops, nope. I think I'll be done now. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.